Hey folks, today we're going to talk about survival strategies and choice and trauma and a whole bunch of things. And so I hope you'll stick around with me because I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. I'm Jen, I'm a holistic family consultant, and I offer compassionate support for queer, non monogamous, and neurodiverse families. And so this came up on a conversation with a client this week in a session where she's realizing that there are some relationships in her life, not like close personal relationships, but around her in the community, where there are things that she can't share, or if she were as honest in her communication as she would like to be, as would feel like it's in alignment with who she is and how she wants to show up in the world, that it's not met well. It's met with passive aggressiveness or being ostracized or hostility, things like that. And some of these are relationships that are not avoidable, or that she doesn't want to not interact with these people at all. And she's trying to figure out, like, how do I stay in integrity with myself and also navigate these relationships where that doesn't really seem possible. And so, and also one of the things she said that really stuck out to me was like, how do I not lose myself in this? And so what we're going to talk about is we're going to start with, we orient to safety a lot when we do this kind of work, when our nervous system is like revved up and we're anxious, jittery, and we orient to like, am I safe right now? And so sometimes, and we tend to think of, at first, when we're first calming our nervous systems down, we think of this as like, oh, the goal of that is to calm down. And sometimes, yes, sometimes the goal of that is to go, oh, I'm actually in this moment not being attacked by a bear, and it is okay to let my nervous system calm down. And that's great. And it's really important. It's really important to recognize when you're not being attacked by a bear. And sometimes that orienting to safety is to go, oh, actually, if I calm down, I'm not gonna like respond to the situation in a way that is going to keep me getting my needs met or is going to allow me to stay in connection. And so that would be a lack of emotional safety in a certain situation. So the orienting is to figuring out whether or not it's safe. It's not a, oh, it's safe, calm down, definitely, right? So if we figure out, oh, there's not actually the emotional safety to respond in the way that feels most in alignment with myself or my highest ideals of how I am in relationship with people, then as an adult, we have choice. So we have the choice to do the dangerous thing, or that's more in alignment with our values, or to do the safe thing that keeps us getting our needs met, keeps us in connection, and compromises our values in some way. So as an example, a really extreme example, everyone who sheltered Jews in the Holocaust was choosing the dangerous choice. It was not safe for them to protect Jews and keep themselves safe. That wasn't an option, and they chose the dangerous path. As an example that's a lot more close to home for a lot of people is the like stereotypical Uncle Bob situation. You're at a family function, and whoever the Uncle Bob is in your family is saying something that is inappropriate or is racist or is making you uncomfortable. And you know that if you say something about it to Uncle Bob or to the group at large, that the reaction is going to be like, you're the problem. Maybe you're not invited back. Maybe you have family members who are mad at you. Maybe there's passive aggressive responses. Whatever it is, it's going to be uncomfortable for you. And it may or may not work to make Uncle Bob stop behaving inappropriately. On the other hand, the safe option there is smile politely, don't say anything, keep your mouth shut, those kinds of things. And those things maintain the connection. They keep you in community, and they usually don't feel good because it's compromising your integrity and values with yourself. And there may be other options sometimes, and this is one of the things that comes up a lot with clients, is that kind of situation where it feels like it's an either or and they both suck in some way. And so helping you get to clarity about how you want to approach that situation. Is there a third way that feels better? Or is there a way that you can figure out what is your most important value or goal in that situation so you can make the choice that is best for you? That's what I do. It's a lot of what I do. And so when we figure out that we have that kind of a choice, we have the choice. We can do the dangerous thing or we can do the safe thing and employ a survival strategy. Staying quiet and small is a survival strategy. Appeasing is a survival strategy. Fighting, fleeing, leaving the event, making up an excuse and going home. These are all survival strategies and they're not wrong. Using the survival strategies is how we survive when there's not room to be our full, authentic, wonderful selves and also get our needs met. So this is about, as an adult, you have choice. And when you start to see the choice, even if you ultimately choose the path that is safer but more uncomfortable, it feels different when you're making that choice consciously, recognizing what your options are and why you're choosing that option. It feels different than when you feel helpless and reactive and trapped and still choosing that same survival strategy. So that's what's really important. And that's what I was talking about with my client yesterday, is that place of like, okay, you want to still continue to work with this person and you recognize what is not safe for you to bring up or to say, and you are making a conscious choice to say this thing, but not that thing. So when we make that choice, the other piece that becomes really important is how do you take care of yourself? Because that's going to feel uncomfortable. And it's okay. It's okay to make a choice that feels uncomfortable when that's what's best for you. And that discomfort needs a place. It needs somebody who can hear it, or some way of working with it and integrating it and making that internal peace with that is the choice that was best for you in that situation, and not just letting it fester as resentment and anger until you explode or take it out on somebody else who feels less dangerous, or take it out on yourself and self-destructive behaviors. And those are all things that I see happen all the time when that's not a conscious choice that's being made, or when there's not room for what it's like for you to make that choice. So the other thing that came up in that conversation with the piece of like, how do I not lose myself? Because this client, like a lot of us, has a history of, as a child, we employed survival strategies in order to stay in connection with our caregivers and get our needs met. And then that became the automatic. And there's that fear then that if I choose a survival strategy as an adult, I'm going to go back into that pattern of employing this all the time, and I'm going to lose choice, and I'm going to lose all of my ability to advocate for myself and ability to be in healthy relationships that I've worked so hard to gain. And it totally makes sense to have that as a fear that, like, oh my God, if I bring back this thing that I worked so hard to stop doing, then how do I get myself back out of it? It's going to take years again of work to get myself back out of that. And the truth is that no, it's not, especially if you're bringing it back consciously as a choice. And that's the difference between being an adult and being a child. When you're a child, you cannot survive without being in connection with your caregivers. And if being in connection with your caregivers means that you have to employ some kind of survival strategy because there is not room for your feelings or for your anger or the loudness of your voice or the wiggliness of your body or whatever it is, it's not allowed, and you have to learn how to silence parts of yourself in order to stay in connection and get your needs met. As a child, you just believe that's how relationships are. You just believe that there's something wrong with you, and that the caregivers, who are all knowing and all powerful, know what's correct, and you just need to be correct, so they'll take care of you. And so as a child, we internalize like, that's just normal. That's just how this is. That's just how relationships work. And we bear that pattern out again and again and again throughout our entire lives until we interrupt the pattern and learn something different and start to experience what it's like to be in spaces where we can start to be our full selves and not cut off parts, and yet still be accepted, wanted, and welcomed. And that's another big part of what I do. Is this is a place where you can start to experience that. You can be that full version of yourself and experience acceptance and connection and healthy relationship. And with practice in a place where you know that's the way it is, then you can start to test that out and see if it's possible in other relationships. And eventually find your way to the relationships where it is possible and have that become what's normal for you. Have healthy relationships become your normal. And then when we encounter situations where something's not quite healthy and we need to bring back a survival strategy, it's a choice and it doesn't need to take over our whole lives again, especially when we have spaces where we can then go integrate that and recognize it as this one piece that is isolated from what is normal for you now. And that processing, that recognizing, like, I did this thing and it was right for me in that situation, and it's not the thing that I repeat in all of my relationships all of the time anymore. That's what helps us to integrate and see, oh, I didn't have that choice as a child, but I have that choice as an adult. And I can do what's needed when it's called for in a situation, and I can choose the dangerous thing when it's worth it to me, when the risk is worth it because it's so important to me. And I can orient back to the healthy relationships where those are available to me, and making sure that I'm consistently in experiences of healthy relationship. And that's what healing and integration looks like. And that's so beautiful to watch and to help somebody walk through, and to then see them have this realization of, oh, I'm not that person anymore. And I actually do know how to come back to healthy relationship. And actually the whole reason that this was such a thing is because of how uncomfortable it felt, because that's not who I am anymore. So if you have questions about that, I know it's dense and it's complex. And so if you have questions about that, or if you resonate with some part of that in your own life, let me know. If you would like help figuring out how to make that shift, how to work towards having healthier relationships in your life, then you can reach out and connect with me at jengerardi.com. And I look forward to hearing from you soon.